Otherwise, other stuff in the news other than the war, because it's still, of course, the theme that's running through a lot of the headlines here on this Friday. We got a situation where Chuck Norris passed away. He had gone to the hospital yesterday in some kind of emergency fashion, and we mentioned that yesterday. But he passed away at 86 years old, so the internet is just complete with Chuck Norris memes and tributes. What a full life he led. Every now and then, one of these celebrities passes away, and you're like, man, that guy, he left a legacy, and he is. I think he could go down in the category of being a legend. Another legend, just by the way, that did not die. You have to straighten things out that are on the internet nowadays. Is Mean Joe Green. Somehow the internet killed off Mean Joe Green. And I hate it when they do that to us, and I've learned to be cautious when I see an obit come across until I can get it confirmed, because I killed Clint Eastwood about 10 years ago because the story came across and it was wrong. But man, the Mean Joe Green family had to come out and say, no, he's still very much with us.
And he's still mean and green.
And yes, he was one of my childhood. I guess NFL was, to me, bigger and just magical back then. And there were all these legendary players, and I loved him. Especially, remember the TV commercial? I just saw a recap on that somewhere. I think it was in a movie or something. That they did a flashback of the old Mean Joe Green commercial with the kid in the tunnel. You remember that?
I do remember that.
He gives him his coat. The kid gives him his coat, and then he throws him his old jersey after the game, and is like, "Thanks, Mean Joe." And so I think it was really just that commercial, not his actual NFL play, that I remember. So I thought, what a cool guy. So since then, AJ, I throw my sweaty jerseys at kids. My kidder. How are you today, man?
Man, I'm too blessed to be the president. I'm good. Can't complain.
Thought you might say that. Pollen, dude, it's back. It's back with a vengeance today. You can almost see it in the air. I saw a pollen index. It used to not bother me till like the last 3 or 4 years. Maybe it's just part of getting older, but man, it's in your face. But a beautiful weekend coming up. There is some cooler weather next weekend. It's not crazy. There were some long range forecasts that made it look like we were going to have another cold snap like what we had last weekend. And I mentally don't want to deal with that again. And so, but it looks like we might be down in the 40s at night, but not below freezing. I know a lot of folks try to time when they're going to do outdoor plants and whatnot. I'd still be careful. The old timers would always tell us, don't plant anything before Easter. And that's probably wise advice, even though Easter moves around from year to year. But here we are heading into this first official day of spring, and off we go. All right, let's see if I can get you updated on any other randomness. I've decided to sweep up some of the random stories, and then we'll get into, once I go on Iran, I'm going to be on it for a few minutes. There haven't been a whole lot of developments on the battlefield today. Just a lot of back and forth and people watching oil prices and wondering when the strait's going to get clear. And it's going to get clear, and we'll get into some of that here in just a little while. The Save America Act, let's get on that for a second. It's on the floor of the Senate. They're planning to go through the weekend, which is, I guess, saying something. I still think it's all theater. I was watching Thune's body language today and trying to read him a little bit, and he's already putting spin ahead of the thing failing, saying that, well, we're going to have this debate and we will have a vote and the Democrats are going to be held accountable, which means his strategy, it's back to an old Republican playbook, is get the Democrats to vote against something that's popular and think you're going to use that in the upcoming elections to help your party, I guess. And here's the foolishness. And he also admits, yeah, they're probably going to try to change the filibuster as soon as they get in here. He's given them the keys to get in there to change the filibuster because he won't change the filibuster. And we all see it. We all know it. And as long as that's the standard, he'll never get to 60. We can all do math. And so it's just a dog and pony show this weekend, even though there have been some interesting speeches. And here was my favorite part. Here's my favorite part today. Lisa Murkowski, who is not really, I mean, I don't even know what a Republican is anymore. I know what they used to claim to be about, but they're all over the place. They're only just controlled opposition to the Democrats. That's about it. And so Murkowski, who, by the way, gets elected in this weird system they have in Alaska, this ranked choice system. And do you remember one time she didn't get her party's nomination and had to do some write-in candidacy, and she's still running on her family's name from way back when, and got herself into the Senate that way. She had to do a write-in thing. So we don't know what party she's in, but she has taken to the floor in vehement opposition to the SAVE Act. Now, she's got an R next to her name, and she's vocally presenting evidence of why it's a bad idea. So here I am watching her do that today, and then she came up with what I think is the stupidest thing, and I didn't even dig too far into it. So I just read the headlines because it doesn't matter. It's not going to get on there. She presented an amendment on the SAVE Act that would say anyone born before 1961. AJ, tell me if I'm being logical here. You can call me out if I'm not. Her idea was, okay, we'll do voter ID, but only if you were born after 1961. Now, my first thought was, why 1961? Who's she protecting with that? So if you were born before 1961, you wouldn't have to show voter ID to register to vote or your citizenship papers, right? But after that, you'd have to show citizenship. So she drew a line there. Now, here's my question, AJ, and tell me if you think I'm crazy. How are you going to prove you were born before 1961? You got to bring some papers down there and show them to them. You got to show ID to prove you don't have to show ID. That was her big genius move. Now, I don't know that they even voted on it, but that was something she threw down on the floor, and we'll keep watching those debates. Y'all, it's theater, and I'm trying my best. I felt like I used to be in the role of, and we still do. We'll do breaking news, and we have a sense of urgency when something's urgent. When it's not, it's not. But I spend more of my time nowadays having to filter out things that aren't true rather than just present. That just hit me like a ton of bricks today. I was out for my walk, sucking up pollen into my lungs, thinking about what we're going to put together today. And it occurred to me that about a good portion of the show nowadays has turned into dispelling myths that people are being fed online and just filtering out nonsense and just trying to tell you what I think that I've been able to vet is real and not real. I know some of y'all can use, search tools and AI to go through these things. And you get duped by it. I mean, you do get things every now and then in your face. I started with the Mean Joe Green story. Like, for example, I pulled a complete granddad move and bit on a video of these little kids. AJ, your kids would love it if it was real. Getting these bath bombs, and they drop them in the bathtub, and then they spin all around and a little toy pops out. I thought, that is the cutest thing ever. I'm going to get some for my grandkids. Turned out it's fake. And the reason I know that is because I sent it to my kids and said, hey, I'm going to get the grandkids this. And they were like, that's fake. And then I felt like Pawpaw. I felt like 100% Pawpaw at that moment. And so, like, yeah, I pulled a granddad move. It's my role now to do goofy stuff and be wrong. It's like, Dad, you're so old. But anyway, the truth is, though, there's so much out there that you just can't bite. You just can't bite on everything you see, and y'all know that. But some days you got to just break these things down. So, again, what we're dealing with in Washington with this whole SAVE Act is nothing but the same old Washington two-step. I'll be stunned if it passes. I don't see any path. I saw there was Senator Kennedy, man, he was down this road of, we're going to force it into reconciliation, which sounds good, but procedurally he doesn't have any power to do that. So we'll let him fight it out. We'll see where the poll numbers go. Speaking of, let's just stay on old school politics real quick and get in some of that in here as well. You got this Paxton Cornyn race out in Texas, which has gotten a lot of attention. I had some crazy idea it was coming up next weekend, but it's not until May when we have their runoff is not until May when we have ours. But Paxton today went up 13 points in that race. Remember how much he's been outspent? I think it's 33-1 at this point. And I don't know what changes. And so then there's all this fight to get Trump involved. Why would Trump get involved in that? If he burns Cornyn, he's not going to have Cornyn's vote for the rest of the year. And Paxton doesn't need his help at this point. So I think Trump's wise to let Texas decide that race. Most likely, if Paxton gets up enough, Trump will come in there because he wants to pick a winner. But that race is getting more and more interesting. I was really surprised at that number. There was a 3-point edge, if I remember the polling right. And again, fairly, these are different pollsters. To really compare polling, you need to compare pollster to pollster because their methodology tends to be the same every time they go in the field. So these are different pollsters, but the range has been, it started at, I think, 3 points, and then it went to 8 points. At some point now we're at 13 points. I don't know that it can widen any further, but Cornyn has really just pissed off a lot of people in his own state, and it's the establishment. They're freaking out. I mean, you even, it's so bad. You even had Meghan McCain taking shots at Paxton today as if she has a voice in the state of Texas. And remember, she's the offspring of the establishment. She is the little spawn of the old school way of doing things in the United States Senate. And that old club ain't happy that their money's not working. And that's a message I'd love for the Senate to get. I love them to think, you know, if you piss off all these crazy MAGA people out there that you just want to shut up and quit calling you, if you piss them off by failing on the SAVE Act, maybe that does affect the elections after all. Some of them are so insulated that they believe they can just cast a bunch of money into the next race and rehabilitate candidates that are taking a hit over this stuff or their own party image. But I'm telling you, people are getting demoralized. People are ready to give up on them as a brand, and they've got to do something about it. This is a gigantic failure. All right, man, those are little things. We'll get into the big things. That would be the war and where we are and the money and the markets and all that as we close out a Friday. Hasn't looked good on Wall Street all day. Oil's now creeping back up late in the afternoon. It had been on a pretty good slide. It's trying to get toward $100 this afternoon. That's not good. There's a psychological barrier there of $100, and I'll go into some of that here in just a minute too. Early phone calls, if y'all want to get in here, 545-9950 is the phone number. That's how we do it. Y'all are welcome to call in, and AJ will get you on the radio. Leland Live, talking 99.5. Be back here in just a minute. All right, y'all, 219, Leland Live, talking 99.5. Every time AJ plays that, those are my buddies in Cattle with that song. I think about the Jawbone Jam coming up. We'll be heavy in promoting that. I don't know. I got to check on the latest on the ticket sales. I think we still have some tickets left. It's our big 10th anniversary coming up May the 15th, Iron City. Brother Kane's the headliner for our show. They're bringing along Stone Horses that has been touring with them around the country on their new tour. And then Cattle is going to get us started that night. I'm so excited for my guys to all be together in that venue, and we're going to have a big old time. So if you still want to go, you better get tickets, because this thing, as soon as the heavy promotion starts, I think we'll start all that in about 3 weeks. It's going to sell out fast. We've only just mentioned it here as we got the whole schedule together. So y'all come see us. We're excited. 10 years, man. I can't believe we made it that long. 10 years of Talk 99.5 at Iron City. We call it the Jawbone Jam. Just a music concert. A lot of fun. Iron City, downtown Birmingham, May 15th. You can get your tickets online at, of course, ironcity.com, ironcity.com. All right, yeah, speaking of radio, this reminds me of the CBS story, and then I'll get into the Iran thing. CBS, there's been a revamp of all these mergers and media acquisitions, and so Barry Weiss is now head of, really, she's over CBS and that whole operation. And I think CNN is under her purview now too. And there's about to be a house cleaning. So CBS News had to lay a bunch of people off. And then they shut down CBS Radio News. And a lot of people didn't even realize that was still around, but it had been around for 100 years. It's older than CBS television. And the reason, it's part of my childhood, because my little family radio station growing up, we carried CBS News for all of those 8 years as a kid that I worked my first little radio job. And every top of the hour, right at the top, it's just the way and we still do it that way too. We go to our news at the top of the hour, and there used to be these commentaries and stuff they would put out. But I remember this one guy, he was Frank Sutterpenny. What a name. Sounds Italian. Frank Sutterpenny, CBS News. And I must have gone to that newscast 1,000 times growing up. But yeah, they canned it. And of course, all of the media landscape is changing in a lot of ways, but a lot of goings on with all that. This Barry Weiss is trying to get them back to being down the middle, and she's trying to get them to recover their credibility with the public. A lot of people are blaming some of these media changes on, things like the new digital landscape and consumer choices. And that's part of it. Consumer habits in our business and all media businesses. But a lot of it is just credibility issues. The mainstream guys at the big networks that have all the money, all the investment, all the marquee names, don't know how to do it anymore. They've become so dug in on just propaganda style programming, and they're in such a bubble, they don't even realize how bad they look to everybody else. CNN has beclowned themselves in the last 20 days over the Iran war like I've never seen it. As much as we've criticized that network, I've never seen anything like this, where they're straight in bed with a foreign country with straight propaganda the last 20 days, and it's killing them. It's completely killing them off. Now, let's go to the Iran war, and let me dig in on that for just a few minutes. Everything is still about the Strait of Hormuz, and you can get a sense of what's coming, and you know what we're about to do to leverage a clearing of the strait is, I believe we're about to have the Marines take Karg Island. So it's as transparent to me as the military buildup around Iran before the first bomb drop 20 days ago as anything. The Marines would be the perfect force to go in and hold this tiny island that's out in the middle of the Persian Gulf. It's off the Iranian mainland. If you looked at a world map, you know where it is. And we can call that boots on the ground or not, but some people do live on the island, but it's basically a gigantic oil terminal, and it's 90% of the GDP for that part of the country of Iran. So whoever's left in charge of that country they're not going to have resources to stay in the fight. They still got errant missiles and silos hidden here or there, and attack plans with cheap drones and things. Those sporadic things are continuing, but their ability to threaten comes down to their economics. As all countries, you run out of money, you run out of war ability. China's starting to see that in their approach to Taiwan. The Russia-Ukraine situation is getting affected by all this stuff too. And so, but if the leverage you need to get them to back off their threats to the energy infrastructure for their neighbors in the rest of the world, which is all they've got left, they're down to hanging their own citizens, executing people for protesting, scaring people so they don't come out of their houses to keep people out of the streets, and international blackmail over the Strait of Hormuz. That's all they've got left. They can't launch missiles, not long-range missiles. They can't do anything that's effective, and they've lost access to their own nuclear program. So the big remaining thing to call this thing completed, well, I guess there are two things. You want the people to be free enough to get in the streets and take their government back. You want the Strait of Hormuz cleared. And, of course, I believe we've also got to potentially seize the enriched uranium. And our intelligence agencies today, we had a real good question about this yesterday. Our intelligence agencies are saying, we know exactly where that uranium is, and we're going to be able to go get it. But to get there, you got to do things in phases. You just don't storm in and do it. It's not push button. This is not sort of some automatic war like in the movies. And so Clark Island makes a lot of sense. So we bombed it last weekend and completely destroyed all the military protection that they had over that infrastructure on that island. But bombing it, and we strategically did not bomb the infrastructure itself, the holding tanks, the pipes, the infrastructure that they used to load the oil tankers. And so you don't want to destroy that because you want something to be left so the people that take that country over will have revenue and something to build their country on. Plus the world needs the supply. We can't be attacking the world's infrastructure because the world shares all this stuff. No matter which nation pumps it and dumps it, the world is affected by the prices. Trump sees that. So, and his team sees that. So they're potentially, we had one of the expeditionary forces of Marines on the way there on amphibious ships, and they just detached another group of 4,000. I think the first group was 5,000. And then we've got a group of 4,000 that they're self-contained. They do all of it. They got air, they got sea capability, and they can fight on the land. And so they're designed for the same kind of mission, to take and hold. And if we go in and put personnel on that island, rescue the people that are scared to death to leave, and control it, it's game over for the Iranians in terms of the whole threat on the Strait of Hormuz. It's the leverage we need to get the remaining factions that are in their government to just throw their hands up. It dries them up completely without having to do damage to the infrastructure. You got to do that on the ground. You got to take it and hold it. And again, this is not part of the mainland. It's out in the middle of the Persian Gulf. We've got to do the things to protect that infrastructure and dislodge these maniacs. And it wouldn't take them long. I think they'll take that island in a matter of hours because we've already defanged everything that the Iranians had on the island to protect it. But in the meantime, the ongoing threats to the infrastructure, at last check, I was just looking at the ticker a few minutes ago, oil was bumping back up around $98 a gallon, a barrel. And that's not where we want it. Yesterday, it had gotten into the low 90s, which in reality, not even spinning, that's a pretty low number considering the chaos in a very heavy oil-producing region of the world. And the potential for chaos, which is what the markets are geared around. It's not even actually what's happening. It's not that, well, if things happen, that affects it, but it's what could happen. And they look at worst case scenarios and place their investments accordingly. And so there's been upward pressure on the barrel price today, and it's bumping around $100. And it's not going to surprise me to see that it settles there. And then you can almost track, you can watch the Dow and the NASDAQ. Almost know what oil prices are doing by how high or low they're going. The Dow right now, as I'm speaking, down 517. So all that is to say, as long as these two are moving together, it's all over one issue and one issue alone, and it's the Strait of Hormuz. The minute that opens up, and here's the thing, it will. It's not going to happen just by snapping fingers or pushing buttons. But when we clear it, and we'll clear it, we're the greatest fighting force in the world. We've got a more lethal Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. We got more lethal capability than we've ever had in the history of this country. In fact, our fighting forces are the most dangerous fighting forces that have ever been on planet Earth, including World War II. And we won World War II against a machine, an outmatched machine at one point against the Germans and the Japanese. and all this is one tiny strait with a dead regime trying to hang on to it. It'll clear. It'll clear. The question is when. And then as soon as it does, I mean, it's just going to be an explosion in activity, metaphorically speaking, that frees things up. So y'all hang on. Might cost you a little more to fill up for a while, but we're going to get this. Back in a minute. Man, it's 2:34. Let's go. I tell you what, let's jump on some phones. We'll do phones early. I'm telling you, it's kind of a lighter news day that'll give us maybe some time to have a little fun a little bit later. Wayne is over in Columbiana. Let me see what he's got going on, and he'll get us started here today. Again, the number 545-9950 if you want to get on the show. Wayne, what's going on, man?
Hang on 1 second.
All right, Wayne's got
Oh,
things to do. All right,
I'm
buddy,
sorry.
go.
I'm trying to get you off a speaker, but it
Yeah,
won't go
that'd be
loud.
good.
Your guys on the morning crew really took me for a ride this morning.
What they do?
I'm doing things, and I decided to tune in, and all I hear is Chuck this, Chuck died. There was a medical emergency. We don't know what it was, but Chuck is dead at what, 86,
86.
I think, 80,
Yeah.
something like that. And I'm thinking, look, I don't care how Chuck Schumer died, as long as he's dead, okay?
Wrong Chuck, dude. Wrong Chuck.
Wrong
We lost the
show.
wrong Chuck. We lost Chuck Norris.
Yeah, we did. Richard is the one who finally said Chuck Norris, and I was very, very disappointed.
They strung you along. I see what happened. I didn't
Yeah,
hear
they
all
did.
that. Yep.
Yeah. Talk to you later.
All right, buddy. All I know is I know what I'm wearing either for Halloween, and I don't even know if they're available yet, but you know they will be either for Halloween or the 4th of July next year. AJ, you know what I'm wearing? I already got my costume picked out. Y'all don't be stealing my idea either. I'm wearing the Afro Man outfit that he wore to court. That was outstanding. Did y'all see the outfit, the suit that he had? I'm sure it's going to be available on Amazon at some point. Wayne, yeah, Chuck Norris. I didn't know they did a bit about Chuck today. Sometimes they do that.
Yeah, they did.
Okay. Well, Wayne, thank you, buddy.
You're welcome.
All right. There's Wayne. See, that's how we get started. Let me check and see if there's any kind of score, anything going on from, we got something going on in Hawaii. Let's see, an alert from the Department of Emergency Management in Hawaii. I'm looking for breaking stuff and developing stuff here. A dam has not failed, but is about to burst, and they're having to evacuate this huge section on one of the islands in Hawaii. Let me see what's going on with this. I'll get back to that here in just a minute. There's not a whole lot of detail available about it, but they believe some dam is imminently about to break. You know, Hawaii, the topography, I've never been there, and one day I may go, but it's very mountainous, obviously being made of volcanoes, and so I can imagine if there's a lake or a reservoir for drinking water or something like that, if that were to go down, that could be a disaster. Hawaii, though, even though it's in the 50 states, is so remote. Sometimes even news can be slow to travel. Some of that's time zone related, and some of it's just infrastructure related. But if we see anything else on that, we'll have that for you too. Trump's about to leave the White House. I'm just looking forward to potential stories this afternoon. He may stop and do one of those helicopter, when the helicopter in the background kind of interviews. They're very difficult to hear. We don't know if he's going to do that or not. If he does, we may be able to jump in the middle of that, see if he wants to add anything else to the broadcast day to day on top of everything else that is going on. 545-9950 is the phone number if y'all want to get on the show. Let me talk to y'all about Alabama Gold Refinery real quick. And before I do that, got to pull up my gold ticker. I got an app that goes to it a lot quicker. That's why sometimes you'll see me reach for the phone when I get to this segment. Let's see what it is as we are heading almost to the close right now. It's been on a slide lately, and yeah, down to 4,491. That's down 2.5% today. Now let's talk about that. Smart people, smart investors, and I've always been told, and sometimes I take this advice and sometimes I don't, they look for buy opportunities in panics. And what we're dealing with right now is largely a world tumult until this situation with Iran gets settled. And my understanding of what started this slide on gold was institutional investors out of the Middle East that had been stocking up on gold are selling off some of their reserves to raise cash because they're about to have to either do some things with their oil industry and or do some things with their military. So that's the way they raise cash. Like individuals would do. You keep it, you collect it, you store wealth with it, and then when you need it, it's easily convertible. So that has dumped a bunch of supply into the markets. That's brought the price down below 5,000. But it is a buying opportunity because now you know how far north it can go, and you see it starting to bottom out. And so while everybody else is panicking, you can pick up some deals right now if you're in a purchasing mode with gold. Alabama Gold Refinery is our place to do that. They're in Homewood, right there across from the Big Regions Bank building. Super cool place. Steve is a great guy. He, is always there. And sometimes he's busy as a one-arm paper hanger, but man, when you can get his attention to hang out with him, he's such a wealth of knowledge about all this stuff. He can talk to you all the way back to ancient history about how gold prices have always tracked. And it starts to make sense on why people throughout time have been able to store wealth and move their money in and out of these things. Some of y'all are long-term and you want to buy and hold. It's a good buying opportunity with it being at those, even though those prices are crazy high. I never thought we'd see gold this high above 4,000. We know that we're in a dip, and we know why we're in a dip, and that explains a whole lot. Bottom line is, if you want a safe place to go and do these kind of exchanges, whether you're buying or selling, whatever you got going on, Steve's a good place, a person to get to meet, a cool shop, centrally located with all the safety features you would expect. It's AGR, Alabama Gold Refinery, Alabama on 29th and Homewood across from the Regions Bank. AlabamaGoldRefinery.com. We'll be back here in just a minute. Let's go to the White House real quick and catch the end of Trump leaving the White House, talking to reporters beside Marine One. Take a listen.
The radar they have is all gone. Everything's gone. The strait itself, the actual strait, how are you? The strait itself is, we're doing a good job. But it would be nice if the countries, including China, if the countries that use it, China uses it 90% of their energy. Japan is 95% of the energy. It would be nice if those countries would get involved.
Trump still safe at CNI?
What?
Trump still safe at CNI? And have you spoken to Netanyahu?
I thought she did a good job yesterday, actually.
The American bases in Europe, Lindsey Graham has asked for you to reconsider the American bases in Spain, in Germany, after what they have done in the Strait of Hormuz. What's your take?
Well, it deserves. He's right about asking that, and I think NATO's gone down a long way because they haven't. I mean, they should be helping with the Strait. They get much of their energy from the Strait of Hormuz, and if Lindsey Graham said that, and don't forget, he was the big NATO guy for a while, and now he's not. And a lot of senators and congressmen, they're very upset with the fact that NATO has done nothing.
Pope Leo is calling for a ceasefire. Pope Leo is calling for a ceasefire in the Middle East and to reopen dialogue. What do you say to Pope?
Well, look, we can have dialogue, but I don't want to do a ceasefire. You know, you don't do a ceasefire when you're literally obliterating the other side. They don't have a Navy. They don't have an Air Force. They don't have any equipment. They don't have any spotters. They don't have anti-aircraft. They don't have radar. And their leaders have all been killed at every level. We're not looking to do that. Thank you.
He did speak for a minute or two. We were in the break when he walked out. He's got Marco Rubio, the human Swiss Army knife, in the administration. Rubio didn't say much, but he's walking out. Okay, he came back to the mic. Let's see what this last question is.
He's a great guy.
As you get closer to the helicopter, it's much more difficult to hear.
You didn't want to fight him.
This is a tradition that Reagan kind of got going where he'd do a press gaggle and give them an availability on the way to the helicopter. Reagan did it really to let the helicopter give him cover for questions he didn't want to answer. He'd always go, I can't hear you, helicopter. And then he'd get on the helicopter. But then presidents, since then, some have chosen to continue to do it. Of course, Trump gives news conferences all the time. So took a few reporter questions. It's kind of the same stuff we've heard before. A lot of it centered around Iran and what's going on with that. And as the president heads off into a weekend, any kind of updates or anything else we have on that situation, we will get them to you. One other thing I want to update you on, in fact, if we get that sound, AJ, we may turn that around and get the beginning of that news conference on delay here in just a little bit. Let me see if that pops up when some of the news stations will turn that around. Real quick, we did have confirmation, we believe, from some reporting agencies in Spain that the young man from Alabama that, this story caught the attention of the whole country. International travel, a kid somehow mysteriously goes missing, and now the gaps are getting filled in. And there are reports out of Barcelona. Is he still taking questions? All right, we'll go back to that in a minute. AJ, just cue me, and we'll go back to it. Can we even hear him?
Yes, we can hear him.
Okay, let's take a listen.
Yeah.
Let's take a listen.
And they said they've never seen a poll like that. The CNN poll said I'm at 100%, and they've never seen that before, which is an honor. I was impressed that CNN would do that. But as far as troops are concerned, I can't tell you what we're doing.
Mr. President, you took issue with Australia, Japan, and South Korea this week.
Yeah, I was very surprised.
Very surprised about Australia and what? What would you like them to do?
Well, they should get involved, and I was a little bit surprised that they said no, because we always say yes to them.
What did Australia say no to?
The UK has said that they'll allow the US to use air bases to defend the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, it's been a very late response from the UK. Surprised because the relationship is so good, but this has never happened before. They were really pretty much our first ally, all over the world, first ally, and they didn't want us to use the island, the so-called island, which for some reason they gave up rights to it, and I was a little surprised at the UK, to be honest with you. They should have acted a lot faster. They should have acted a lot faster.
We'll try to see if we see anything else about it. Trump just can't get enough of this. He is willing to talk to these guys directly as much as he can. All right, so there's that. We wanted to try to catch as much of that live. If we get if he turns anything else around, I'm watching the news anchors do the same thing. They'll send it all back to the news sets, and then the anchors have to go back to Trump because he just keeps going, trying to get on the helicopter. Crazy time. All right, we will. Did he do it again, AJ? I think I see him back up again live. We'll just keep going. I got to get focused here on the show. Let me go back to Spain, and we'll talk about this tragic situation with Jimmy Gracie. There is purportedly some video, surveillance type video, outdoor camera video that shows him falling into the water. So there had remained, even yesterday, after they had found the body and pretty much confirmed that it was him, a lot of questions. Was he alone? Was anybody with him? How did somebody get his phone? And we still don't know the answer to that one. And how did he wind up in the water? We didn't know a complete picture. Only we would hear from authorities over there saying that they did not suspect foul play. And naturally, people are going to be dubious. Here's a foreign country that needs to keep up a good PR image, and having a tourist get killed is not a good thing in any country. So, but they say there's that video, and I suppose at some point the family might get a chance to see that, as hard as it would be to watch. But if that's true, and this is, again, I'm reporting it to you from the reporting over there in some local publications that claim to have knowledge of the investigation, it kind of confirms the story. And it goes back to us trying to learn lessons in all this stuff of when you're out and when you're alone. You know, even adults, we think about, my mind immediately goes to being a dad and parenting my own sons, and boys are a whole different challenge. We've talked about this with this case all week. They feel bulletproof at a certain age, kind of invincible. They take risks. As the male brain develops, that slows down, but boys at that age, young men at that age, will be risk takers. And I don't know that he felt like he was taking a risk, but if alcohol was involved in this, there's going to be a lesson outside of what some people had started surmising, that it was foul play. And then, of course, you know, you've got situations where you don't leave your wingman and you stay with a group, and especially when you're traveling. And that's true even here domestically. If you're out on town, you need to have a flight plan. I used to tell my boys, I called it a flight plan. I need to know where you're going, when you're going to be back, who you're with, and what's up. Even at that age, you worry about it as a parent. And by the time you're 20 and a junior in college and otherwise pretty responsible kid, it seems, you can let your guard down on those things. But it looks like just an awful tragedy that happened to this kid. And but anytime there's something like that, we want to try to draw some, I guess, what do we call it? Back in the day, people try to call it teachable moments. So if you got kids in that age range, you know, just talk to them. I think they're paying attention to stories like this. It doesn't take long for you to lose judgment out that late. You're in a foreign country and disoriented, and something like that happens. It's understandable, but tragic nonetheless. AJ, is Trump still answering questions? My video feed may be slightly behind yours. I keep seeing them go back to him. I don't know what the guy's doing right now. Is AJ even still alive?
I was sorry. I was trying to monitor. I apologize. I was monitoring what Trump was saying with the SAVE Act. He just got done.
Well, I think it looks like he's finally just walking straight across. All right, SAVE Act. Yeah, I went through some of that at the beginning of the show. We'll see what Trump has to say about it. Trump's going to keep a brave face up on that, but I think he knows he's about to be let down by his own people in the United States Senate. And it's back to the warning I gave you all after he won. The consequences, though, and let's just go into that again for a minute. I got about 5 or 6 minutes before we have to get to the top. The consequences of failure right here are so hard to grasp in this moment, because I still think Republicans have a strong shot at controlling the Senate. They're still in good, by any math, if you take out today's headlines, the Republicans still have an edge in those races. The Senate, for that matter, comes up every 6 years, and it's staggered. The whole Senate doesn't come up for re-election at the same time. These 6-year terms crisscross each other from state to state, and you don't usually even have the same two senators up at the same time in the same state, unless there's a special election, which we just saw in Georgia a couple of years ago. But so you never have a complete, like you do in the House, where all of them are up at the same time every time. And so it can be a jump ball, more of a jump ball than the Senate. And so when you do that math and look at states where Republicans have performed strongly, where Trump has performed strongly, the Republicans still have the edge. My fear is this: in the blue states, they're going to be able to continue to cheat, which they will. And the exposure of that is out there, but you can't do anything about it. And then in the red states, you're going to have, I think they've got a turnout problem unless these races get hot on the ground, like in the state of Texas. And even there, you've had a vicious primary. The establishment's going to be balking after Paxton runs off of that race. And some of them may decide to go elsewhere or to sit on their hands by the time we get to the election. And that's going to be a tight race. I think that what will help there is the Democrats have nominated a straight kook. And it's amazing in a state that size that they would put some weird gay pastor, preacher, whatever this guy is, up for their nominee. But there they are in the state of Texas promoting this guy. So back to my point, I do think there's going to be a depression of enthusiasm amongst the MAGA base when it comes to Congress. Trump's not on the ballot. He can't make himself be on the ballot. He's going to go out and campaign. He's going to do rallies. He's going to raise money. He's going to do what he can to protect his presidency. But if the Republicans lose either of these two chambers, I think Trump's presidency gets neutered in a huge way. You've seen what the Democrats are willing and capable of doing with lawsuits and handpicked judges, activist judges, just delaying and stalling. I mean, they're throwing so much stuff at the president. I'll give you some examples. This shutdown of Homeland Security is an attempt to slow down the deportations. Even though ICE is funded, it's still slowing government down. The situation, I mean, we can go through multiple situations. Jerome Powell at the Fed, he won't lower rates by every standard. Rates in this market, in this climate, should continue to trend down, but he's freezing them. He was under pressure to do the three previous lowerings, and then this week they held those rates where they were. And as long as he's in power, he's not going to do anything to open this economy up. And now Trump has done something which is, I mean, depending on how you slice it, probably the most politically, listen to what I'm saying, politically courageous thing or risky thing in both of his terms, which is this situation with Iran, knowing that he had the oil prices down, the stock market had crossed 50, everything was going in the direction that he wanted it to go. And by the way, these high oil prices will eventually start to contribute to inflation numbers. We're going to be dealing with that again. But he sees and he's taking this, calculated risk that this is short-term problems for long-term gain. And while it's not the best thing for him to do politically in the middle of a midterm election year, it's the best thing for the country in the long run. And it is. And we've known that for 47 years. He's known that for 47 years. He has spoke consistently about this country and our approach to this country. And now he's got the power to act on it. And he did it at the right time as they were becoming even more dangerous than they'd ever been. And there's a political cost to that. Lesser, more cowardly, more swamp creature type presidents that are politically, animalistic, I guess, would never, their base instincts are to never take a risk like this. So this man intentionally derailed his own economy that they worked on for a year to make this happen. And if he wins on the other side of this, when the strait opens, when the prices come back down, and hopefully that'll be before the midterms, there will be dividends, but people are quick to move on. We're quick to forget what we were pissed about 6 weeks ago, and we're on to something else. And we'll see how this year plays out. But I'm telling you, if the Republicans fail here, and let's just be doomsday about it, and the Democrats get back control of the Senate, his presidency's done. Any effectiveness he would legitimately have will lose any potential backing, even though he is a man without a party right now in a lot of ways, despite his popularity among the party and the issues that he's put out there. Even today, there's polling on the Iran war itself, and even outside the party, there's still majority support in the country for this move. But we got to get through this hard part. And it's good that we have a leader that's willing to take that risk and take on the heat and take on the negative poll numbers or anything that comes with it to do what needs to be done to secure the freedom and the future of this country. And I'm glad to be living in these times and seeing this happen. Tighten your belt, eyes front. Let's move forward, and this country is going to be in a better place here, shorter rather than a long time from now. Top of the hour. We'll take some more of your phone calls, 545-9950, Leland Live Talk 99.5.